How are we all doing?
Where would you start? There's a bunch of
Yeah, there's a bunch of
documents.
different documents. I would start with actually the 5 books of mystery and go into True and Faithful because that's sort of the chronological.
Wait, what in faithful?
The True and Faithful relation. Yeah. Donald Tyson has a great book called The Beginner's Guide to Enochian Magic, which kind of will give you the overview. That's cool. Tyson himself is not great. Like he does come up with some good answers to these questions and so on and so forth, or at least like ways of dealing with these questions. He knows what the questions are. But I sense that in Tyson he's kind of inherently hostile to the system in and of itself. Or like the whole apocalypse factor is a problem for him. Whereas like I seriously don't think that shit ends in that way. You know what I mean? Like I think that it's a metaphor, like I said, start to finish type thing. And Crowley kind of emphasizes this in his own work as well, where he's just like, we should posit, basically, anyone who has an attainable goal is destined to misery. Because once you attain your goal, then you're done. You should have a goal that's completely unattainable, something that you can aspire to toward for your whole life, etc., etc. And if you're starting to work the system itself, though, I would probably say it's easiest to start with the watchtowers. The way that the Golden Dawn break it down into elemental sections, like I said, debatable. We can debate whether that's good or not, but it actually gives you a fairly easy to work with it because all you have to do is know the elemental pentagrams, and you've got like a way into the watchtowers. And it's better, I would say. Like I said, it's hierarchical. So if you're going to start going through the system, then you start with the name of the tablet, the king, the seniors that govern the tablet, and then the angel of the corner, the calling and controlling angels, and then go back to the whatever sub-angle you want to work with. But I would also say, and emphasize this, if you're going to work with a specific tablet, that's fine, but you should definitely like do all 4 first and make sure that there's elemental balance. If there's too much elemental imbalance and you focus your energies too much in one place or in one element, then you can get a result fast, but it will burn itself out. Yeah, it's like anything else. If you put too much weight in one place, everything falls off. Like you can't overbalance it. But and because it's a hierarchy, every aspect of it has to be gone through, which is exactly the same way that the old grimoires worked. It's just that they didn't have a coherent, consistent system. It was just broken up. Even when working the Aethers, I would suggest like starting with invoking the Angels of the Tablets, just to get a foundation, kind of get it going on. I mean, I know there's people who have gotten results just by doing the Call of the Aether and whatever. It's like, okay, that's cool, but just to keep everyone stable and everything going straight and narrow. And no
Kings and seniors of each tablet?
Yeah. Yeah, because the seniors are specifically named in the Book of Revelations. They're like the 12 elders who govern the ages of time and so on and so forth.
So when Dee and Kelly were working together, basically Kelly was doing all of the scrying because
Yes.
she was the talented scryer.
Yes.
What if someone were to try to do this stuff solo? Like, what if Dee were to be here today and want to do it but just by himself? Would he get results?
Well, Dee couldn't. He tried on his own. He couldn't.
So certain people just need.
Yeah, certain people do need a partner. That the Squire aspect is kind of interesting because Dee mentions at one point in his diary because in the first few things in 5 Books of Mystery he has a different Scryer called Saul. And he's like, Saul was carried off by demons, so I had to find someone else. And he's not really specific about what that means. It doesn't go into details there, and it's just like, come on, man, you know. But yeah, then Kelly shows up just as a guest of, I think one of his friends brings him over. And then he just tries it with them, and it works really, really well. Then there's a certain point when Kelly just gets so frustrated with the angels. He's like, not doing this anymore, fuck it. And the angels make an offer to Kelly to transfer the power of seeing to Dee's son, so he'd just be working through his son. And his son does do a couple of the operations as well. but there's a very clear sense that the angels selected Kelly specifically to see this shit.
What, I had a couple other questions.
Yeah.
So basically, you made reference to like, why would they be lying if they, because they, when they're writing stuff in their journals, no one was gonna read it.
Right.
So then why would they write like this is too much to even write down? Like if I was keeping something for myself.
But that's the only
Yeah.
time in the whole record that happens.
It just makes it just obviously raises a million questions.
Right. Like the fact that you would write that in your own record, especially when like we're dealing with the time when if this record was found, like Dee had already been on trial for witchcraft.
Right.
Like he was actually accused of witchcraft when he was in school because he made a mechanical beetle for a play and they thought that he gave life to an inorganic object. And he had to explain, no, it's a wind-up thing or whatever. Like that's the primitive technology that was there at the time. But so yeah, like that's the only reason that I would go there with that, because that seems to be like completely out of character with the whole rest of the record.
And then the one other thing is if this was a precursor to the new Aeon, and then kind of breaking down like kind of like Christian oppression or something, I don't know how you would look at it. Why would they care to see that them being married as like an actual sacred vow that they are one?
Well,
like, why would they hold that as something sacred?
because I don't think they intentionally intended to do this.
Yeah.
I don't think the result was not what they intended. Dee wanted the wisdom of God. That's kind of what he said. And I think that what he found out that was going to be was terrifying to him. You know, there's a great line from the Sacred Garden of Abeldees. Abeldees, no, whatever. The Scented Garden, one of Crowley's poetic, one of his main homosexual poetic sort of books, where he says, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, why are you so afraid to see the maker in the maid? And this is why Crowley considered Nietzsche to be a prophet of Thelema as well, because Nietzsche's understanding of the divine was very in tune with nature, and he's like, if we want to understand God, we should look at nature, and nature's fucking scary. Like, there's lots of terrible, terrible things that happen in nature. So if this is the image of God, then that tells us something about God that maybe like people don't like looking at and don't want to see, basically.
I think the substance of the question, though, was why do the angels hold the marriage sacred?
Oh,
Yeah,
well.
that's what I meant.
Oh,
Why
sorry,
would it be
sorry.
Why would they be like, well, they're not going to be homosexual, so we'll get them to have like unmarital sex with each other's wives?
Because the marriage vow is equivalent to a magical oath in the framework of the Catholic Church, or not. Well, at that time it was not a Catholic church, but whatever, same church framework. And Crowley says at one point, you know, the thing about a magical oath is it can't be broken, and it really does. Like you take an oath for something, and if you do it in that particular spiritual context, then it has meaning, it has relevance, and it has a sway on your spirit, whatever the context happens to be. And I don't think it's specific to one religion or one tradition or whatever, but the significance is that they stood in front of a priest and got dressed up special and, you know, had everyone come and took an oath in front of everybody. And that's essentially like the ceremony of it gives it a power in and of itself, I believe.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I figured. I thought it was a bit weird that on one hand they're kind of trying to like smash down these rules a bit, and then there's
Well, they're not
following. But
Yeah,
I,
well,
but
yeah.
I get what you're saying. There's just the fact that they did make an oath or a vow.
There's also a lot of inconsistency in the communications they have. There are times that they think that they're talking to the same angel over and over, and what it seems like the angel is saying is totally contradictory to what it seems like they're saying before. So I don't think, if you look at their whole record, I don't think they were talking to angels the whole time. I think they were getting periodically fucked with. I just don't think they were getting fucked with when they thought they were getting fucked with. Like, it's very strange how at certain times they'll seem to, like, have this whole revolutionary doctrine, which is completely antithetical to the culture and civilization and religious tradition that they come from. And then there's other times that it seems to completely reinforce that. And it goes back and forth. And I think that's just a measure of Kelly's own, you know, difficulty dealing with what was happening, or even pressure that was getting put on him by Dee. Hard to say, can't really, don't have evidence, so whatever. But I think that it goes back and forth. And I think the thing is, like, people do have to really carefully read. There is a version of this out now that is readable. The one that I have isn't. It's like the mimeograph with
It
the.
was like $80. I got it. It's,
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but it's a big investment.
Yeah.
And it's huge. I don't have shelf space for it.
Really?
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, this one you kind of have to read with like a magnifying glass and sound
Where is
everything
that
out.
book? Is it-
True and Faithful Relation. Joseph Peterson came up with a good edition of the 5 Books of Mystery, so that's actually, I don't think it's that expensive, at least for that one. But that one's kind of like it's not where all the good stuff is. All the cool apocalypse stuff comes later. But Dee was really